Hello and welcome back to The Load-In, a United Theater podcast with me, your host, Lee Metzger. Today we are talking with Kate Masury about sustainability, eating with the ecosystem, and the United Table event series. So stick around after this and we'll dive right in. Hello and welcome back. It's still me. I'm still here, still doing the show. Today we are going to be talking about the United Table series. The United Table is a culinary entertainment series presented by the United to celebrate the food we eat and the creative, hardworking people who take the care and thought in preparing and presenting that food. Through lectures and conversations, tastings, book talks, food fests, and screenings from the culinary cineverse, I almost had it. The United seeks to share scrumptious, sustainable sustenance with all. Whew, that was a mouthful. Today, Kate Masury is joining me from Eating with the Ecosystem. Hello, Kate. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, Lee. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, Kate, you organize and run educational events, conduct research, and build relationship with chefs, fishermen, scientists, seafood businesses, and citizen scientists, and you also excel in communications and graphic design. Is that everything, or should the list go on?
I feel like we're a really small organization at Eating with the Ecosystem, so everyone wears a lot of different hats, but
Sure.
that's pretty inclusive.
So what is Eating with the Ecosystem?
We're a small nonprofit. We're based in Rhode Island, but our mission is to promote a place-based approach to sustaining New England's wild seafood. So we're regional in focus.
Place-based,
yes. So that's like, instead of being species focused, like you might have heard of other sustainable seafood campaigns that will like color code individual species, for example, or say like eat this fish, don't eat this fish, and they're a lot of times on a global scale, and they're looking at things that are important, such as like how that fish was caught or how that population is doing or things like that. But they're looking at things on a global scale and can't really take into consideration all the nuances that are actually really important kind of in terms of sustainability. So for us, place-based is looking at a place or an ecosystem. So our region is New England, and you could go really narrow and focus on Narragansett Bay or Rhode Island, or you could, go broader and focus on like kind of the whole Northeast region. But looking at those ecosystems and the species within the ecosystems, as well as the communities who then interact with those ecosystems, and kind of all those components to it. So for us, it's, if there's 100 species in the ecosystem, then and they're all like edible species that can be harvested and are being, I guess scientific data is being collected on them, and they're kind of being managed through different like management bodies, like fisheries management bodies, then and the fishermen are allowed to catch them, then we should be able to eat them. But there's a lot that goes into it. We should be eating kind of in balance with the ecosystem based on the species that are actually coming out of our local waters and the fishermen are actually harvesting, not just like, oh, I only want to eat one or two species because that's what I'm familiar with.
Sure.
So it's really about balancing your diet with the ecosystem while at the same time taking care of those habitats that are producing our local seafood and supporting the fishing communities that are helping get that seafood to your plate.
Interesting. So it's like hyper specialized to where you live.
Exactly.
And what naturally grows and lives in that ecosystem.
Exactly. And there's a lot of like species to species interactions that are important. There's a lot of human to species interactions that are important.
Those humans, man, they love interacting.
Yeah.
Like at some point, stop interacting.
I mean, some of it's good. But,
yeah, that's true.
I think that, when we're purchasing, for example, from local fishermen, that's like a really great interaction that we should be doing more of.
That's true. Support your local fishermen, folks. Now, are we talking like just animals? Are we talking also plants? And
So we're focused on seafood, but
Sure.
that could include some algae, like seaweeds, for example. We actually did an event with you guys as part of the United Table
yeah, I
series.
guess you did.
Focused on kelp. So that I think was our last one in April. And so we had a kelp farmer as well as more research person, as well as an artist and a chef. So bringing together kind of all the kind of full circle community that's involved.
It's like a holistic approach to
Definitely.
Not just what you can eat in your area, but also where you might get it, who's preparing it, who's taking a look at it from an ecological standpoint. That's incredible. Now you also like kind of in that you're also talking to people who their like livelihoods are dealing with these things, like fishermen.
Yep, definitely. So we try to include, someone who's harvesting that whatever species we're focusing on for any of these kind of events. So the last one was kelp. So we had a kelp farmer. For this one, it's focused on gastropods, which are snails, like marine snails. And so we have actually a husband and wife team, Ryan and Marissa, who are welk fishermen.
Wow.
Who will be part of the panel.
What is a welk?
A welk is basically like a big sea snail. In this case, these are carnivorous snails, which is kind of cool.
Should I be on the lookout for these at the beach? Are they going to nibble my toes?
They're probably not going to nibble your toes, but they will go after other shellfish.
Sure.
Primarily other shellfish. Sometimes they'll eat sometimes dead fish will be like scavengers. They actually like horseshoe crabs, so they'll eat like a dead horseshoe crab. But yeah, they're
cleaning up our
kind
beaches.
of. Yeah,
that's awesome.
They're not very fast, so they have to kind of go for like the more cleaning up activities.
You must interact with a lot of different kinds of people from a lot of different occupations in this in your work. Is there an occupation or like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that was a job that you like came across?
Ooh, I mean, we do get to interact with like so many different people. I think it's one of my favorite parts of my job is getting to meet different people that are involved in the seafood industry in some way.
It's got to be so varied
in some way. But yeah, I think, there's, if you think about the seafood supply chains and stuff, like there's so many different roles, from like the fishermen that are actually going out and catching those species to the people on shore, like the dealers who are then taking those species and finding markets for them and sending them off to all these different channels. There's a lot of really cool nuances there. And then there's, processors, people that are actually cutting the fish. Yeah. Sometimes that's part of the dealers. Sometimes it's not. All the different retailers that we get to interact with. And there's like niche kind of businesses within each of these. Maybe you're an exporter. Maybe you're you target high-end chefs for like Michelin star restaurants.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe you target businesses on the West Coast or something like that. They all have kind of their own relationships and niches. So I think there's a lot of fun kind of getting to understand all the different components.
Yeah.
As well as there's the scientists who then study those species. They then, give the science to people like managers, for example, fisheries managers, who then make the management decisions on how to actually kind of put rules in place that hopefully maintains those species for future generations and stuff. So there's a lot that goes into it.
I bet. So these events that we have here at the United Theater under the United Table series, they'll feature a certain thing that you might not consider eating before, right?
Yeah.
And then it's a led discussion or a lecture, and then a demonstration and a tasting. Yeah.
Yeah, we like to try to choose kind of like underutilized species that people might not be super familiar with, but
which that could be incredibly healthy. Like
really healthy, abundant, delicious species, but a lot of times, are often overlooked kind of by the average consumer, maybe because you had no idea it even existed in our local waters, or maybe you've heard of it, but you have no idea what to do with it, and so you've never cooked with it at home, or you don't know what it tastes like, so you've never ordered it out on a menu. And so we've started doing kind of almost like categories of species. We did a shellfish one this winter that had some species that probably people are a little bit more familiar with, like quahogs and oysters and that kind of thing. But this one is gastropods, which gastropod literally means stomach foot, but snails, they move around on their foot, which is like, and there's like stomach area, but they're super tasty. There's a variety of different species that we have in Rhode Island, and most people are not eating a ton of gastropods here.
I don't think so.
So things like slipper limpets. We actually served slipper limpets at Soupy Fest here at the United Theater. So
I was there.
And we periwinkles are another species that people don't realize you could eat.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so happy that you said that, because I had a roommate who was a chef years ago, and we lived in the Stonington borough, and he was like, hey, I'm going to go down to Dubois Beach with a pail. I'll be back in a little bit. And I was like, okay. And he came back with a pail full of periwinkles. Yeah. And he was like, are you hungry? And I was like, that's a bucket of snails.
I don't know if I'm hungry.
But boiled them up with like seawater and like butter, and then we just took a paper clip and just scooped them out.
Paper clip.
They were super good.
They're delicious. They're super simple.
But I was like, oh my god, are periwinkles like a protected thing? So I didn't tell anybody.
They're actually invasive. They've been in New England for a really, really long time, and have almost seem native because we're so used to seeing them. But they actually are not from here originally. So you can feel pretty good about eating periwinkles. They're also pretty abundant.
I felt good then. I feel good now.
Yeah, they're healthy. They're delicious. A lot of people are kind of overlooking that opportunity. They make a great appetizer. It's hard to fill up on periwinkles just due to their size. But they're really tasty, and like a simple like steam them in salt water as you did, or if you want to get a little fancier, you could treat them kind of like escargot, or go with like white wine and garlic and butter, some herbs.
Don't give away all your
that
secrets.
Kind of thing. But they're really tasty. And toothpick, paperclip, whatever works to get them out of the shell.
So this event that's coming up, do you know the date offhand?
It is June 15th, which is a Saturday.
June 15th. So what can people expect from this event?
So we typically start with a panel. So Harry Rosenblum is our Eating with Ecosystem board vice president, and he's been helping organize all of these different events. And so Harry normally leads the panel. And our panelists this time include Tori Thomas, who is a researcher. She's with the Commercial Fisheries Research Foundation, which is another Rhode Island-based nonprofit. And she runs a couple different projects there, but one of them is they have a welk research fleet, which they do collaborative research with the fishing industry. So they work with the fishermen to collect scientific data and help study the species. And so Tori will be talking about that. And then we have both Brian and Marissa, who are welk fishermen. They're a husband-wife team who harvest whelks. And so they'll be here. They're out of Warren, Rhode Island. So they're making the hike to come all the way down here, which is exciting.
Just in Warren. I was in Warren the other day. I was driving through on my way to Bristol. That's a side of Rhode Island that I never go to.
It's about the exact opposite side of Westerly. So so they're coming down, which will be really great. And then we have Ben Sukul, who's a chef in Providence. He owns Oberlin as well as Gift Horse. And so Ben's going to be on our panel, but he's also going to be preparing a tasty gastropod bite for us to enjoy, I believe, with whelks.
Cool. So should people come having had, or do you think they'll fill up?
Yeah, so they definitely should, like, it starts at 7. I would say eat before you come, but, like, save a little bit room because we'll have some, like, samples, but I wouldn't say you're going to get a full meal out of it, kind of. So Ben's going to prepare a tasty bite, but yeah, you're probably going to want more food. Yeah. If you're like me, you'll probably want a dinner beforehand.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, that sounds incredible. Harry Rosenblum, Tori Thomas, Ryan and Marissa Ferris, and Ben Sukol.
Yeah.
We're all very excited to host them on June 15th.
Yes.
At the Eating with the Ecosystem co-presented event. And I remember the name because I helped design it. What is the Gastropod?
Yeah, what's up, Gastropod?
What's up, Gastropod? So make sure to come down to the United Theater for that really fun event. It's going to be great. I'm personally going to eat a bunch of periwinkles before I come.
Perfect.
So if you're hungry, swing on by. I'll be out back boiling a bucket of snails.
Perfect. Yeah, so we'll do the panel, and then we normally move into like the gallery space, and people have like a cocktail or a glass of wine, and we'll have the gastropod snack for people to enjoy, and it's just a chance to talk with the panelists a little bit more, or other people that attended the event. You'll get to talk with Eating with Ecosystem. We'll have a table there with some information and educational materials if people are interested.
Will you be there?
I will be there.
Excellent. So if you want to meet Kate, you know where to be on June 15th. Now, Kate, this is the end of the show where I look up a review of the show and see if anybody wrote a review. And if you do write a review, then I will read it on air. So let's do this part. But I always forget.
It's a good one.
I hope so. My last guest said that they were gonna leave one. So let's see if they did. No one wrote a review. So for next week, make sure to tune in next week to see if anyone wrote a review, and I'll read it live on air right now with my new best friend, Kate Masury. Kate, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. It was fun.
Oh, excellent. I'll see you on June 15th.
Perfect.
And I'll see all of you on June 15th. Thanks for listening to the show. Listen to more shows that we make, please. Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in to the United Theater Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode, we encourage you to subscribe to our show so you never miss an episode. And if you could take a moment to leave a review, we'd greatly appreciate it. Your feedback helps us create content that you love. So hit that subscribe button and leave us a review, and we'll see you on the next episode.